Welcome to Communication Mastery. Turn your cameras on so I can see your beautiful, radiant, luminous, smiling faces because we have a powerful training prepared for you. Hello, Liz. Hello, Brad. Hello. Lisa's in the house. Peggy's in the house. Kathleen's in the house. Danya. Everyone, welcome, welcome, welcome. And definitely turn those cameras on because the quality of our lives, tell me if you agree with this statement, the quality of our lives mirrors the quality of our communication. The quality of the results that we create in business, in life, are mirroring back to us our communication. And it's not only how we communicate with others, it's also how we communicate with ourselves in those quiet moments. So today, I'm going to give you powerful insights, distinctions that you can apply immediately to elevate your communication in every area of your life. Who's excited? Raise your hands and let us know where in the world you are joining us from so we get these chats opened up. Where in the world are you right now? And as you're sharing with us, we got Kansas in the house. We've got Toronto, Canada, Florida, Germany. Fantastic. So when we open our mouth to speak, how many possibilities are there of what could come out? Infinite, right? There's limitless ways to describe our life and our experience. Well, the words that we choose matter because they shape our experience of reality and they reveal the dominating thoughts of our mind. You and I, my friends, we create as we speak. Our word has that much power. When we speak, we are literally speaking into existence. And every cell in our body aligns with what we declare. So our purpose today is to give you tools that you can apply immediately to elevate your communication in business, in your personal life, with yourself. Because when that happens, your results and your entire experience of reality is enriched. I mean, let me ask you this. How many of you are here because one of the reasons is you'd like to be more productive and create greater results in business or financially? That's one of the inspirations for coming here today. Well, tell me if you agree with this. The quality of your bank account. What's in your bank account is reflecting back to you your communication. How you communicate with your prospects, how you communicate with your clients, how you communicate with yourself about the value that you bring in the marketplace. How many of you are here because you'd like to improve relationships? Better relationships with your loved ones, with your children, people in your life. Well, the quality of our relationships is mirroring back to us our communication. It's not only how we're communicating with others, it's also how we're communicating with ourselves about them before they even show up. That influences our state. How about the quality of our mental and emotional state, our health and vitality, our mental and emotional state? These are mirroring back to us how we're communicating with ourselves. The choices we make from moment to moment are reflecting back our own internal communication. So who's ready to take communication skills to a whole new level right here, right now, today? Awesome. I'm inspired and I'm a little challenged because normally when I teach communication, I teach in a multi-day experience because there's so many distinctions. So today we're focused on giving you as much as we can pack into this 2-hour free training. And then obviously we have our VIP afterwards. Now, who would be willing to do something that may be a little different than what you would normally do if you knew that it would take everything we're talking about and integrate it at an even deeper level so that when you leave this training, the tools and distinctions that you've learned start becoming a natural action? So good to see you, Carol. So good to see you, Catherine, who's willing to do something a little bit that might be out of your comfort zone. Okay, so your totality in this context is essential. Tell me if you agree that what we get in life is directly proportionate to what we put in. True or not true? And so it is with this training. So I'm going to encourage you for the 2 hours that we have, commit to you. Turn off all distractions. Focus your mind, focus your attention, focus your energy, lean in. Can I see everybody leaning in? Like lean in. There you go, Carol. Lean in, get curious. Can everybody get curious like this with me? We're going to get curious about what works. We're going to get curious about what doesn't work. So you gather insights and breakthroughs. I'm going to encourage you also to keep an open mind. I may say some things that may challenge some of your previous thinking potentially, and I may say some other things that are in alignment. As we maintain an open mind and we're curious, we create the conditions, like ripe, fertile conditions for new learnings and for breakthroughs. And one of the things that's going to happen during our time is I'm certain that there's going to be breakthroughs that are going to happen. How many of you have experienced breakthroughs with me before? I'm curious. So as you've experienced breakthroughs, it's like that aha moment. So I'm going to encourage you. We've got our breakthrough gong over here. You guys can all see the breakthrough gong, right? I'm going to encourage you to own your breakthroughs. So anytime as we go through this experience and you experience a breakthrough, can everyone put a B in the chats, capital B in the chats? And that's going to signal that I'm experiencing a breakthrough. Now, because we have short time, we're not going to have time to give each person an opportunity to share their breakthroughs. But by owning your breakthrough, declaring your breakthrough, you're creating the space to integrate it even more within every cell of your being. So, foundation, is everybody clear? Are we all ready to play full out? At a level 10, bring all of our energy, all of our attention, all of our intention into this moment. Say yes. Fantastic. Okay, so during our time, I'm going to be giving you insights on how to communicate more effectively with others, as I said, and also with ourselves. I'm curious, let me ask everyone and put it in the chats. If you had to pick one area that by you improving your communication in this one area, everything else in your life would skyrocket. I just would love to see where the group is at. Share with me in the chats, and I'm going to give you 3 options. The first is improving your communication with others in the context of business. Okay. If that would be like super valuable, let's put number 1, communicating with others in the context of business. Number 2 is communicating with others in the context of your personal relationships, your intimate relationships, your spouse, your partner, your kids. And then number 3 is communicating more effectively with yourself. Okay. So you're really calling forth the highest within you. If you were to pick 1, 2, or 3, Dennis has got a lot of 3s up there. Which would you pick? Fantastic. So it's like all 3. I love that gift. Can I get all 3? Awesome. So here's the foundation to communication mastery. The foundation of inside strategies for influence and for impact. Number 1 is know your outcome. That's the number 1 most important foundational key is before you open your mouth to communicate, ask yourself, what is my ultimate outcome? What is my intention? What is it that I'm committed to accomplish or achieve in the context of this conversation? So for example, in business, if your outcome is to communicate with someone in a way where they recognize the full value of the product or service that you offer, and that you can speak into their listening in a way that creates understanding so they take action. Okay, you're clear. My ultimate outcome is to create understanding and inspire action. So what does action mean? They're going to buy your product, buy your service, or refer you to someone else if it's not in alignment for them. Okay, but you're entering that conversation with clarity of intention. A lot of times people go into conversations and they're not yet crystal clear with the ultimate outcome. Let's say that you're having dinner with your child. Would it make a difference? Or let's say a friend, would it make a difference for you in your life and in your results if before you had that dinner with that friend, you got clear on your outcome rather than just hanging out? You're going to say, okay, what is it that I'm ultimately focused on having happen here? And it might be that your friend feels totally loved and supported and connected. Having that clarity of intention is going to make a difference. So foundation 1 is know your outcome and know your evidence procedure. Evidence procedure answers the question, how will you know when you achieve your outcome? What are you going to see? What are you going to hear? What are you going to feel that lets you know you've achieved this outcome? And then while you're clear on this outcome, you're going to focus on it while still being open to the infinite possibilities all around. And I was thinking about showing a video if there's people here that are new. How many of us, or how many of you are new to these types of trainings with me? This is one of the first trainings you've done. Let me take a look by show of hands. How many of you are coming into these trainings? It's got Appy. Who else is new? Let me see by show of hands. Carol, Kay, Pal. Awesome. So what we focus on here, let me give you, I got some slides, okay? For those of us that are visual. So what I'm going to share with you in a moment is a slide that in NLP, we call the communication model. For those of you that are graduates of our courses, this is going to be a bit of a review, but there's always distinctions that you can gather from this teaching to really enrich your understanding. So let me bring up some slides for those of us that are visual. How many of you are visual and you love seeing those visual slides? Okay, fantastic. Let me bring these in. So we live in a field of infinite possibilities. Like right now, there's infinite possibilities around you of what you could create, what you could accomplish, what you could achieve. And as we think of our communication, there's a way that we communicate with the people in our lives that's very natural to us. There's a way that we communicate in business with our clients, our customers, our team, our prospects. There's a way we communicate in our personal life. And it's very natural to us. The challenge is for many, it's often unexamined. Very few people pause to really contemplate and examine, where does this way of being and communicating come from? And how effective is it? It comes from a blueprint that we inherited when we were very small, from our parents, the people that raised us, the society, the culture we were born into. This culture, this society had beliefs, had rules, had norms. Had we been born into a different culture or society, we would have a different blueprint, yes? Well, this blueprint, it influences our perception, it influences our communication, it influences the choices we make and the actions that we take and who we become. So right now, I'm going to show you a model so you can begin to get curious about how you're communicating and what it's reflecting back about your own blueprint, and then get clear on how we can take this to the next level of clarity, of confidence, and of results. So let me share my slides here. Okay. So this model that I'm about to share with you is a model from NLP. NLP stands for Neurolinguistic Programming. If you're new to this particular body of work, this is a psychological approach to reprogramming our thoughts, our emotions, our beliefs, our behaviors, and ultimately our communication to achieve personal and professional excellence, to achieve our greatest goals and dreams. And one of the things that NLP teaches us is that we live in a field of infinite possibilities, that right now there's infinite possibilities of what you can create financially, in relationships, in life. We're surrounded by infinite possibilities. But what happens is that our neurology and our nervous system can't take in infinite possibilities. It's like too much information. It's like trying to download the whole internet at once. We can't do it. So what we do all day long, what those whom you're communicating with do all day long, both ourselves and others, and those of you that are graduates, this is a bit of a review, you could put in the chats, is we delete information. We're deleting information. We're distorting information. And we're making generalizations about reality. We're literally filtering information through our senses, and we're creating a mental map of the world. How is it that two people can be in a similar environment with a similar opportunity, and one person says, how am I going to make this happen? How am I going to achieve this result? And the other person goes, oh no, what if it doesn't happen? That's a very different question. What's the difference that makes the difference? It's not what's out there. It's how we're representing things back to ourselves in our own mind. So as we get this model as a foundational teaching of how we communicate, we come to realize that in a field of infinite possibilities, and my dear friend Michael Beckwith said this, he and I were having a conversation about this model. How many of you know who Michael Beckwith is from the Agape International Spiritual Center? And we were talking about it, and he said, we don't describe what we see, but rather we see what we describe. Think about that. I'm going to come out of this slide just for a moment because it's that rich. In a field of infinite possibilities, we're not describing what's happening. Instead, what's showing up is mirroring back to us our communication, our beliefs, our values, our identity. This is awesome news because it means that when we shift internally and our communication reflects that, our entire experience of reality shifts. Now, here's what happens. When we are communicating, like, for example, how many of you right now have something in business that it's important for you to be more effective in how you communicate your product, your service, your offer? In order for someone to understand, align with you and say yes, that's important. Now, how many of you know for a fact you've got something of value to bring? You're like, if I could only get this message into someone else's head, I know I've got something of value. Now, here's what happens. Let me explain to you how communication happens. You've got this vision of your product or your service and what it can do for people's lives, yes? And as you think of your vision for your product, your service, your company, your offering, there's a deep structure to this in your consciousness. There's a deep structure, and the deep structure is what we are intending to communicate. It's the full internal representation. In NLP, the word internal representation means the pictures, sounds, feelings in your mind. So let's say you're a coach. I see some coaches in the room, and you know you've got something of value, so you can see it. Now, the moment that you attempt to communicate the deep structure of the immense value that someone is going to experience by aligning with you, the moment you attempt to communicate that deep structure, and how many of you can sense that that deep structure it's holistic in your mind? It's got pictures, sounds, feelings, a lot of dimensions. Now, the moment you attempt to convey the deep structure of your experience into words, inevitably, deletions are going to happen, distortions are going to happen, and generalizations are going to happen. So the deep structure is what we're intending to convey, and the surface structure is what is actually said. Like, how many of you have ever had someone walk up to you and they go, well, what do you do? And you go, well, and you say, I'm a CEO, I'm a coach, I'm a, consultant. And they look at you and they go, I know all about that. You go, what are you talking about? You know all about that. Because they were assuming. George Bernard Shaw said, the biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Which is like when someone thinks that just because they opened their mouth and they said what they were intending to say, that communication happened. Communication happens when your communication is heard, received, someone is listening, and understood. Okay. And understood. That's why one of the things that's important for us to recognize when we're communicating is that people often don't respond to reality. They respond to their map of reality. And that map is not the territory, the same as I just got back from Amsterdam yesterday. and I'm in Colorado right now. So if I took a map of Colorado, is the map of Colorado the same as the truth of the landscape of Colorado? No, that map contains deletions, right? It contains distortions. It contains generalizations. And so it is with our communication. So would it be valuable today if I gave you a specific technique that allows you to go beyond these deletions and really understand someone else's map of the world? To be able to see what they see, hear what they hear, feel what they feel, so you can speak into their listening. Well, here's the foundation of it, is seek to understand as a foundation. In other words, honor. This is a guideline for effective communication that I'm giving you right now. Honor the other person's map of the world, even if you don't agree with it. We're not seeing a lot of that in today's political climate across the world, are we? So, and then you see where, you've got experts even predicting possibility of civil war, which is interesting. So how important is it, especially when ideas are opposed to, as a foundation for communication mastery, to seek to understand? So I'll give you an example. Years ago, I got invited to go on a cruise, and it was, I hadn't been on a cruise in a long time, and I had just seen the movie, The Titanic. How many of you saw that movie, The Titanic? And I had this scene in my mind about the movie, which was Kate Winslet standing on top of the splendid staircase, wearing her beautiful gown, looking down at Leonardo DiCaprio. And it was like this romantic scene that I had in my mind. And I was packing bags with my boyfriend at the time, and I looked at him and I said, "Sweetheart, this cruise is going to be so amazing. It's going to be just like the Titanic." And he looked at me and he goes, "Are you crazy? I don't want to go on a cruise if it's like the Titanic." And I was like, "Well, didn't you see the movie?" And he was like, "Yeah, everybody died." So think about this example. In that moment, the word Titanic to me conjured up images of that particular scene in the movie. So the word Titanic for me was symbolizing love, luxury, connection. The same exact word Titanic to him conjured up images of the wreck, people floating in the sea. Okay. So one word had two completely different, here's the term in NLP, two completely different internal representations. That's important in communication mastery, to realize that people are not responding to a reality, they're responding to their map. And one word can mean different things for different people. If I said the word love, describe love, and I had everyone in the room describe it, how many different distinctions or definitions or angles could we have in this room? Same thing with success. Now, how important is this in the context of relationships in every area, business and personal life? Let's say that you hire someone and you've got this vision of what success means for their role, but they've got a different vision of what success means. So your ability, this happened to me years ago. I customized all of the training years ago for a company called the Fletcher Jones Motor Cars. And within 7 months, they became the #1 Mercedes-Benz dealer in the world and the #2 dealer of all dealerships in the entire United States, all makes and models. And one of the distinctions that I taught them was the importance of having a tool to really understand another person's map of the world. There's a name for that in NLP. It's called the art of specificity, how to really understand another person's map of the world. And I'll give you an example of a story that happened there. I walked in one day and the leader who's in charge of that entire store, was fuming, and I could see him, and he was looking out the window down at the lot, and there were people, customers that were on the lot that were not being taken care of. And he was angry. And I said to him, well, who's the manager that's on duty in the floor? And he said, Phil. And I said, well, where is Phil supposed to be right now? He said, he's supposed to be on the floor taking care of the customers. And I said, well, let me go find him. And I went to go find this gentleman. And guess where I found him? I found him in his office on the phone. And when I went to tap him on the shoulder, he was like, I'm on the call. And I go, Phil. And I paused and I asked him this question. I said, what is most important to you in your position? And by the way, before I came down, I asked the general manager, I said, what's the most important thing in Phil's job? And the general manager said, the number one most important thing is making sure that everybody who's a customer on this lot is taken care of at a level of excellence. When I came in to communicate with Phil, he was on the phone, and I asked him, I said, Phil, what is the number one most important thing in your role? And guess what he said to me? Recruiting new sales professionals. So there was a miscommunication. He thought he was doing his best. The other guy thought he wasn't doing his best, but they had different ideas. So would it be valuable to have a specific tool that you have at your fingertips to be able to really understand another person's map of the world? To be able to ask a question to elicit what they're seeing, what they're hearing, what they're feeling. I'm going to give it to you in a moment. The foundation to this first, though, is taking ownership for your communication. Repeat after me. I am at cause for my communication, being at cause. And it's actually a formula, okay? As we look at it, it's a formula in our communication that in any given moment, we are either at cause or we are in effect. This is a foundational understanding to mastery in communication. How many of you know people that give all the reasons why results aren't happening? The reason they didn't get the result is because of the marketplace, because of the economy, because of inflation, because of what someone else did or didn't do. Sound familiar? Here's the thing. Anytime you give a reason, I always take out my red flags over here and I wave them real fast, because anytime we give a reason why results aren't happening, in that moment, we're in effect. Examples of being in effect are blaming. It's because of what someone else did or didn't do. Again, it's a red flag. Minimizing. Making it small. Oh, it's not that bad. Justifying. Okay, trying to look good or not look bad. You cannot be in the embodiment of communication mastery on the effect side of the equation. So foundational teaching 101 is communication mastery is I'm taking ownership. I'm at cause for everything that's showing up, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because no matter what shows up in life, tell me if you agree with this, we have power to respond. Is that true or not true? Elka's giving me 2 thumbs up. No matter what happens, you have power to respond. And how you respond influences the subsequent response. So I'm going to give you a belief right now that is not necessarily true, but it works in the context of communication mastery. And the reason why I say it's not necessarily true is because you can find exceptions to it. Here's the belief. Owning that my communication is the response I get. My communication is the response I get. What does that mean? If I'm communicating with someone and I'm getting resistance, rather than saying, oh, that's just a resistant person, I'm going to go, okay, how can I shift my approach? How can I shift my angle? How can I shift in order to speak into their listening if that's my ultimate outcome? That's why we start with the ultimate outcome. What is this ultimate outcome, and how can I be infinitely flexible? Here's another guideline for effective communication: is the most flexible person in any interaction becomes the influencing factor. So being clear on your intention and outcome and being flexible, the ability to change your approach, is a key to being able to come into a place of speaking into their listening. So in a moment, I'm going to give you this tool that I've shared with you of how to really understand another person's map of the world. And before I give you this technique, here's a foundational prerequisite to utilizing this technique effectively. And this is also a foundation to success in communication, is something called sensory acuity. Sensory acuity is the ability to notice subtle distinctions. And they happen from moment to moment in communicating with others and also within yourself. How many of you have ever been communicating with someone, let's say in a negotiation, and you sense that everything is going awesome, everything's fantastic, and then something shifts? And you're like, okay, what just shifted? Who's had that experience? Okay, so your ability to notice subtle distinctions is the difference that makes the difference, because something that all communication masters have is they have the ability to create rapport. Rapport with anyone, anytime. And rapport is a super valuable skill, because when you have rapport with someone, you have a relationship of responsiveness. How many of you have certain people in your life that you text and they text you back right away? You're in rapport with them. How many of you have other people that you text, they might take them a few days to get back to you, or they don't even text you back at all? How many of you have certain VIPs you would like to communicate with, but when you call them, they don't call you back right away, or they might not call you back at all? Who's had that experience? Let's say as you're reaching out to high-level VIPs. Well, if you're contacting someone, they're not calling you back. Here's the bottom line: is you don't have rapport. And once you understand how to create rapport, rapport opens doors of opportunities greater than, it is the foundation to opening the door of opportunity. But guess what the foundation of rapport is? It's sensory acuity. Sensory acuity, noticing subtle distinctions. So in a moment, I'm going to play a short video, okay, to test your sensory acuity. Okay. Actually, I'm going to play, let me see, a couple of videos here. Let me give you a video. Okay, this video is going to test your sensory acuity. Before I play the video, who believes that they have outstanding sensory acuity? You are like, Clarence is raising his hand. I love it. Who's like, I am a master of noticing distinctions? Who's got really great sensory acuity? How many of you could sense that there's another level of sensory acuity? Okay. So I am going to play this video, and I'd like you to notice what distinctions you see in the video. Are you ready? Everyone get on the edge of your seat. We're testing your sensory acuity. Okay. Here we go.
Clearly, somebody in this room murdered Lord Smythe, who, at precisely 3:34 this afternoon, was brutally bludgeoned to death with a blunt instrument. I want each of you to tell me your whereabouts at precisely the time that this dastardly deed took place.
I was polishing the brass in the master bedroom.
I was buttering his lordship's scones below stairs, sir.
Why, I was planting my petunias in the potting shed.
Constable, arrest Lady Smythe.
But But how did you know?
Madam, as any horticulturist will tell you, one does not plant petunias until May is out. Take her away.
That's right, madam.
It's just a matter of observation. The real question is, how observant were you?
Okay, so what did you notice in this video? Okay, I'm going to play another minute of distinctions that happened while you are watching this narrative, and I want you to lean in and get curious and see if there's something that happened right in front of your face that you may or may not have missed. Okay, are you ready? Let me give you a little drum roll here. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Give me 1 second. I got the same slide, little technical difficulty. What did you notice? Put it in the chats while I get the next video up. What did you notice? Let's see. All right, here we go. We're watching the second part of this video right now. Okay.
Action.
Clearly, somebody in this room murdered Lord Smythe, who, at precisely 3:34 this afternoon, was brutally bludgeoned to death with a blunt instrument. I want each of you to tell me your whereabouts at precisely the time that this dastardly deed took place.
I was polishing the brass in the master bedroom.
I was buttering his lordship's scones below stairs, sir.
Well, I was planting my petunias in the potting shed.
Constable, arrest Lady Smythe.
So the question I have for you is, how many of you were who watched this video for the first time with me? Let me take a look by show of hands. Who's seen this for the first time? How many of you got so caught up in the narrative of what was happening that you kind of missed all of these things happening in the background? Who was in that place? Okay. Now, is it possible that sometimes you're communicating with someone and there's subtle distinctions that are happening, but you might be so caught up in the story or so caught up in the narrative or so caught up in your own belief or so caught up in your own agenda that you might miss something that is happening right in front of your face? What if there's opportunities that are right in front of your face, but sometimes you don't see them because you're focused on something else? This is why it's so important for us to not only have sensory acuity with regards to how we communicate with others, it's also important for us to have sensory acuity within our own state. Where am I? Is it valuable to recognize? Let's say that you're about to communicate, you could tune into your own state. It's like, okay, I'm experiencing doubt right now, or I'm experiencing insecurity right now. Let me shift my state before I pick up the phone, before I walk into that meeting. Okay, so after watching this, who feels like their sensory acuity is more on point right now? So it's noticing subtle distinctions. Would you like for me to play with you one other video to do one more test? Let's see, another video, one more test. Okay, because I'm seeing some people have watched that for the first, let me see, how many of you saw it for the first time? Okay, I'm going to play another video. And I used to play this one before, but I haven't played it in a while. So if you're watching this one and you've seen it before, play full out as if you're watching it for the first time. Here's what I'm going to show in a moment, not just yet. I'm going to show a video of two teams passing a basketball. Okay. One team is wearing white shirts and the other team is wearing black shirts. And your job is to focus all of your energy on the team in the white shirts and count how many times they pass the ball. Now, how important is it in the context of communication that you're clear on your outcome and you could focus on your outcome in order to ensure that you achieve that and that you are flexible in your approach? Okay. So how many of you believe that you could watch a 1-minute video and here's what's going to happen in the video. In this video, there's two teams. One's wearing black shirts. The other was wearing white shirts. You're going to focus all of your energy on the team in the white shirts and count how many times they pass the ball. Who believes that they can count and get the correct number of passes? Everybody? If you didn't raise your hand, what does that mean? You're not quite sure? Okay. And then we're going to tie this back in what specifically this means in the context of communication mastery. Here we go. Everyone, sit on the edge of your seat. Drum roll, please. You're going to focus all of your energy in the team in the white shirts and count how many times they pass the ball. Give me one moment. Let me get the video going here. There's no sound. Okay. Okay, everybody focus. Okay, now, as we debrief, let me look around. Who's seeing this video for the first time? Raise your hands to the heavens real quick. Who's seen this video for the first time? Awesome. Wow, quite a few of you. Okay, I'm glad we showed it. So how many times did they pass the ball? Put it in the chats. Okay, 15, 16, 23. We got a special seminar for you. 23, 14, 18. Take a look at this. We all saw the exact same video, but look at how many different responses. Now get curious about that. Do you think that impacts communication? Where all of a sudden we all saw the same thing, but we're getting different interpretations. We're getting different ideas of what we saw. And how important is it, since we're getting different ideas of what we saw, to have a tool to understand the other person's map of the world? Let me take a look one more time by show of hands. How many of you are seeing this video for the first time? So let me ask you this. Those of you, I'm asking those that are seeing it for the first time, keep your hands raised real high. Did you see the gorilla? How many of you are going, gorilla, what in the world are you talking about? How many of you are like, gorilla, what do you mean gorilla? Raise your hands real high if you're like, what do you mean gorilla? Okay. So I'm going to play this exact same video one more time, and I want you to notice, expand your sensory acuity, expand your awareness, expand your ability to notice subtle distinctions, and notice what you see in this video this time that you may have missed before. And then we're going to debrief. How does this relate to what's showing up in communication? Let me get the video again. I only have one copy of it. Okay. So we're going to debrief this together. Okay. All right. What color is the curtain? Put it in the chats. It's red, right? How many people in white shirts? 3. How many people in black shirts? 3. So let's take a look at the video. Now, what I did with my language is I said, focus on the team in the white shirts. So I communicated in a way that provided you received my communication, you were so focused on the team in the white shirts that how many of you, well, let me bring that back. How many of you missed, tell me in the chats, please. Let me see those chats. How many of you missed this gorilla? He wasn't even walking fast. He like walked out there slow, stops, pounds his chest. Let me know who missed it. I saw the gorilla, but I missed the curtain. How many of you noticed that the curtain is a different color? Who missed the curtain being a different color? It was red when we started. Now it's orange. So the curtain is red. Now it's orange. There's a gorilla. And then who missed that a person in the black shirts literally left the stage? How many people are in black shirts right now? Okay. Only 2 in black shirts. So there were 3 changes. Now let me take a look in the chats. If you missed one, put 1. If you missed 2 of the changes, put 2. If you missed all 3, put 3. And if you didn't miss any, put 0, but only put 0 if you're watching this for the first time. If you've seen it before, don't put a 0 because that would be a little bit of cheating. Okay. I got all of them. Okay. 1, 3. And what does this imply for your business and life? Is it possible that there may be things happening right in front of your face, opportunities, possibilities, but in the past, you may have not seen them because you were focused on something else? So sensory acuity, here's the distinction on sensory acuity as a foundation for communication mastery. Sensory acuity is recognizing that we are perceiving, and then based on our perception, we're making sense of the world. So one of the teachings that we do in NLP as a foundation is literally re-educating our nervous system to become more aware of subtle distinctions. And I'll give you some examples of what those are in a moment. And when we re-educate our nervous system to recognize these subtle distinctions, it enriches our map of the world and it gives us greater choice. And choice is better than, having more choice is always better than no choice. So here are some areas that are important for you to have sensory acuity within yourself and with others while you're communicating. One is breathing. So you could tune into a person's breath. If a person is breathing very shallow, they're in a different state than if they're having deep diaphragmatic breaths. Where's your breathing? How about body language? If someone walks in the room, can't you tell if they mean business or not just by looking at their body language, looking at how they move? How about your body language? I remember Tony Robbins used to say to me, motion creates emotion. How we move influences how we feel. So we want to have sensory acuity, not only of another person's body language, our own body language. Before you walk into that meeting, where's my body language? Is my body language at a level of excellence? Is my body language open? Is it receptive? Is it available? Or am I being closed off? Your voice cues or another person's voice cues. Like if all of a sudden, if you call someone and they say, what's the bottom line? You're going to communicate with that person very differently than someone else who says, can you please tell me, all about it? Those individuals are asking for different communication. And it's not just the words they use, it's the tone, the pitch of these voice cues. There's a term in NLP called predicates. Remember, when we open our mouth to speak, there's infinite possibilities. Someone might say, can you show me how it works? Another person might say, can you tell me how it works? Another person says, I want to feel how this thing works. I want to understand the beginning, middle, and end. These are examples of predicates. And having sensory acuity of the predicates show you how someone is representing. Predicates is just a jargon term that means how someone is representing experience in their own consciousness. And I'll give you an example, a story that you'll get how important this is. One of the first NLP processes that was created by modeling some of the world's leading therapists. These are individuals that were able to create rapid results in therapy where someone else would go to therapy and it would take them years to get to the same result that these experts, these like geniuses, were able to get in a very short period of time. And one of these individuals who was brilliant was called Virginia Satir. And Virginia Satir was a family therapist. And she would have couples come to her. And when the couples would come to her, she wasn't just looking for the content of the story. She was looking for the structure of how they were communicating. Now, check this out. I'm going to give you an example. You're going to get it right away. They'd have a husband and a wife come in. They were at each other's throats, but they loved each other and they wanted to be, they wanted to figure out how to heal their relationship. Okay. And the wife would say, I just don't feel that he loves me. I just don't feel it. And the husband would say, no matter what I do to show her how much I love her, she just doesn't see it. Who can hear the difference here? The woman is saying, here's her map of the world, right? People don't respond to reality. They respond to her map, their map of reality. So she's saying, I just don't feel it. How is she representing the experience to herself? I don't feel it is a word. The word feel is a kinesthetic word. That's about her feeling. So she's literally communicating with words what she's looking for. I just don't feel love. Now he over here is in a different map of the world. No matter what I do to show her, she doesn't see it. She's giving kinesthetic communication. He's giving visual communication, and they're not speaking into each other's listening. So what if she could learn how to see a little bit more? And what if he could learn how to feel a little bit more? That would be a game changer. Now, from moment to moment where we're communicating with someone, not only are these areas that are more, you would sense more obvious, right? Like the word I feel versus I see versus I hear, okay? Another distinction is that there's subtle things happening from moment to moment that as you really tune in, you can begin to recognize. For example, how many of you have ever been in a conversation you feel like everything's going great and then something shifts? And you're like, whoa, what happened? You know, everything was fine a moment ago. Okay. So one realization is that in any given moment, when you're observing someone, their skin color will shift. Their skin tone will shift. Their lip size will even shift. And it doesn't matter what nationality you're from. It doesn't matter what, race you are. There's a range that shifts from moment to moment. Like, for example, if someone is thinking about something they love and they're excited about and they're passionate about, there's going to be different sensory cues than if they're thinking about something that they don't like or that they don't want. So your ability to recognize these subtle distinctions becomes a foundation to communication mastery, even the way that they move their eyes, because the way that we move our eyes influences our how we retrieve information. So one of the things that you can do to understand more, to really have a greater understanding, is ask a question. And one of my favorite questions to ask, this is actually one of the first models that was created, the first model that was created in NLP, is called the meta model. It's the art of specificity. And it's as simple as this. Before you assume you know, ask how so. Before you assume you know, ask how so. I'll give you an example. I walk into a coffee shop not too long ago, and as I'm walking in, I'm seeing a father and a daughter who are having a heated conversation. And her arms are crossed like this, and she says to him, "You just don't understand me." And he snaps back, "Nothing I do is ever good enough for you." And they're reacting, and I'm observing this, and there's no communication happening. Who's had an experience like this in personal life, and you'd love some distinction, some solutions, okay? And I'm certain that what they really wanted was to be heard, to be understood, to listen, but they were reacting. They were snapping at each other. What if in that moment when the daughter says, "You just don't understand me," instead of reacting and going, "Nothing I do is ever good enough for you," what if the dad asked a meta model question? What if the dad asked a meta model question? Here's the meta model question. "Sweetheart, how so? How do you mean?" It starts like, how do you mean? How do you know when understanding is happening? What has to happen in order for you to feel understood? How will you know when you feel understood? Because it's important for me to have you feel understood. Please share with me how you'll know. Do you think that by asking those questions, it would create the space for a greater level of awareness, greater level of, rather than resistance? See, resistance in someone, here's a guiding principle. Resistance in someone is a sign of lack of rapport. And if you don't have your cameras on, turn your cameras on, because I love seeing you all, okay? Everybody turn their camera on. Brian, turn your camera on. Everyone, where are you all? Justin, Dan, Debbie, awesome. So, and we're going to go into more examples of this today in the VIP room, where I'm going to actually do hands-on coaching. Who's got a certain person that they're communicating with right now that is a challenge, and you would love to have some insights and distinctions on how you can communicate even more effectively with them? And that would be a game changer for you. Who's got something like that happening right now? I'm curious. Raise your hands to the heavens real high. I'd love to see. Kathleen, would you like to share, just so we get a couple, open up the room with some insights? And then we're going to do more coaching in the VIP room, but I'd love to hear of some challenges you're having in communication and how we can apply the technique that I just gave you in that area. Go ahead, Kathleen. Share with me a little bit about what's happening in this context and what you would like to have happen.
I have a client who's in her mid-20s. She's
Okay.
single mother, and she had a boyfriend come in from the past, just out of the blue, and he moved in.
Okay.
Then she made a comment about another guy. He got very jealous, and like a month later, he left.
Okay.
So I've been trying to get in touch with her for the last 3 weeks. We were meeting every week, through Zoom calls. I've texted her. I've given videos. I've done personal video messages. The first time she responded and said she was so hurt she couldn't even talk about it. Now she's not responding.
Okay. So let's start with exactly what we've talked about. What's your ultimate outcome in this context right now, Kathleen? If I was to say your ultimate outcome, what is it?
I would love to have her just show up for an appointment, have an appointment, be able to talk to her about what's going on with her.
Okay, awesome. I'm so glad I opened this up for that question, because we want to get clear with what is my ultimate outcome. And if the ultimate outcome is to get a call back, to have them show up, you want to make sure that when you reach out, now, when you did call her and she hasn't showed up, what was your approach in the past?
Previous times, I would just assume that she was going to meet. I would say, okay, we're meeting. I'll see you at 4:30 or whenever. I expect to see you. I expect you to honor, that commitment.
Okay. So one thing that we want to realize is that from moment to moment, we're constantly framing our communication. So how can you frame your communication in a way that leads to the ultimate outcome? So for example, if my ultimate outcome is to get a call back or to have someone show up, how can you frame that? And often what I see when people reach out to call someone, sometimes they give too much information on that call, where the point of that call is just to get someone to show up. So for example, if you were to call and you were to say, listen, I understand that you've had some challenges and I've got one very specific thing that I want to chat with you about briefly that I'm certain can make a profound impact that's positive for you in your life. Just give me a call back and we can chat about this.
Okay.
Does that sound different than I'm expecting you to show up for your session? So you're framing it in a way that leads to a possibility with a call to action.
I did tell her that in the last video message that I knew that she was suffering, and then I thought that she would, just by talking, that I would be able to help her get through this. So get over the pain so that she could, I said some, positive things that are going on for her. She's got a son she does well with. She just got a promotion, and that we can build on those things and move forward.
Awesome. Another thing that you can also do, so it's great to frame, the benefits of it, and you can ask a question. There's immense power in questions. So you could call her up and say, that's the rapport. I know you've been navigating these challenges. And if you knew that by showing up to this session, you could let go of X and you can step into Y, how quickly would you want to have this happen? So where you could literally frame, if you knew that by coming to this session, it's going to help you eliminate what you don't want and help you step into what you do want, how quickly would you like to get on the phone to do this together? We could do it today or tomorrow. So this framing of our questions is significant. It's one of the next techniques that I'm going to give to you in a moment. Thank you, Kathleen, for bringing that up. And then really, it's like, how do you frame these questions in a way that leads towards the possibility? Realize that every time we ask a question, every time we ask a question or make a statement, our questions contain presuppositions. Presuppositions are embedded assumptions in our language that literally signal our brain. They signal a part of the brain called the reticular activating system. Who's heard of the reticular activating system? It's the part of the brain that tells us what to notice. So when we ask a question or make a statement, the question, the statement itself has presuppositions that signal the RAS, the reticular activating system, to sort through infinite possibilities and find what's in alignment with what we're declaring. I'll give you an example of the presuppositions in our language, okay? And then we'll see if we have time for a couple other shares so we could give you some specifics on how you could apply this to some of the challenges you're having in communication to turn those challenges into opportunities and possibilities. But in a moment, I'm going to play a short video. And in this video, I want you to notice what is being presupposed in the communication. Who's ever been curious at how two people can make a similar request and one person gets an absolute no and the other person gets a yes? What's the difference? It's how the communication was framed, the underlying presuppositions in the communication that influence perception. So in a moment, I'm going to play this short video. I'm going to invite you to tune in your sensory acuity, everyone. Notice the subtle distinctions and tell me what is being presupposed. And before I play it, let me give you an example of presupposition. If someone says, why is it so hard to make a lot of money doing what I love? How many of you can see that that question has presuppositions? And it's going to signal the brain to focus in a field of infinite possibilities. We've got all these infinite possibilities. It's going to signal the brain to focus on problem rather than possibility. But what if somebody else asks a different question? Like, how can I bring my gifts into the world in a way that creates value, beauty, and prosperity? There's different presuppositions there, yes? So these presuppositions influence, they not only influence others, they influence ourselves. They influence how we show up. So here, I'm going to play this video. Notice what happens in the experience when the presuppositions in the communication shifts, the entire experience shifts. The perception shifts and the results shift. Ready? Put your sensory acuity goggles on, everybody. Those sensory acuity goggles. So you notice the subtleties, okay? Sensory acuity goggles, so you see the gorilla. So you see the curtain turning red or orange instead of red. You ready? Here we go. So the distinction here in watching this, what did you gather? What were the presuppositions in the first statement? Okay. The presuppositions in the first statement presupposed what? And we can have a mind read about it. So the helplessness, that can be a mind read. It might be an accurate mind read. We listen to this, we go, wow, that's victim mentality. That's a mind read. It's not necessarily being presupposed, but it might be accurate. We're mind reading. This person is a victim or they're helpless, but it's a completely different meaning. Who's got that? So just by shifting the communication, what about the second? What were the presuppositions in the second way that he framed that communication? The presuppositions in the second one was more gratitude, right? Appreciation. So realize that in any given moment, every single statement we make and every single question that we ask presupposes the existence of something. And those presuppositions influence the reticular activating system to sort through infinite possibilities and find what's in alignment, becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I'll give you a few let me give you a slide here so we could really tune in to the difference between, just by shifting a few words, how the entire meaning can shift just by shifting a few words. Okay, this is the power of our words. So read this statement together with me. We'll all read it together, okay? You are becoming even more aware of the vast amount of information that you convey about your attitudes and your beliefs through your communication. So there's something there that's being presupposed. Let's take a look at how by just shifting a few words, the entire meaning can change. So let's say that we're going to play with some words. How would the meaning change if I said, you are not aware? And tell me in the chats. Let's just look at how changing a couple words can shift everything. Tell me in the chats, how does this change the meaning? You are not aware of the vast amount of information that you convey about your attitudes and beliefs through your communication. You are not. Presupposes what? Okay, so it's maybe criticism, might be a mind read, judgmental, negative. These might be mind reads, okay, about that experience. Let's take a look at another distinction. What if we said most people are not aware of the vast amount of information that they convey about their attitudes and beliefs through communication? How is that different? Just by shifting the words a bit. How is it different? Okay, it's a generalization. Now let's take a look at a different one. You may not be aware of the vast amount of information that you convey about your attitudes and beliefs through your communication. You may not be aware. There you go, Carol. Leaves the possibility that you might be, you might not be. Okay, a little more open and thinking. Let's look at another one. You may not yet be aware of the vast amount of information that you convey about your attitudes and beliefs through your communication. You may not yet. What does that presuppose? Doesn't it feel like you're about to, like it's about to happen? How about if we said you are becoming aware of the vast amount of information? How does that change? If we say you are becoming aware, so you're growing, you're evolving. What if we said you're becoming even more aware of the vast amount of information that you convey about your attitudes and beliefs through your communication? Now there's progress, there's momentum. Who's excited that just by shifting a few words with intention, with purpose, with poise, in an empowered way, you can shift the entire meaning? Just by shifting a few words, okay? And this, again, this level of awareness in your communication, sensory acuity, is the foundation of creating rapport. Okay? It's recognizing these subtle distinctions in communication. And realize that if you're getting resistance from anyone, resistance is merely a sign of lack of rapport. And flexibility is power. The most flexible person in any interaction becomes the influencing factor. I'll give you an example of flexibility in the context of rapport. I'll share with you a quick story, and then we're going to go into more advanced rapport techniques in the VIP room today. But rapport is the foundation of success in communication. And as I've said, sensory acuity is what informs your ability to have rapport. And in business, for example, there's going to be moments where you break rapport. In personal life too, breaking rapport is natural. Especially if you're pushing or going far enough or big enough, there's times where you may break rapport. That's not the problem. Having awareness that rapport has been lost and tools to quickly restore rapport, that's the key to communication mastery. Not being concerned about breaking rapport, but recognizing that breaking rapport may happen. You have the skills to regain it instantly. And I'm remembering a story that is one of my favorite stories on rapport that Tony Robbins shared with me many years ago. And this was a story that Ronald Reagan told Tony directly when they were taking a flight together. And Tony told the story directly to me. And Reagan was a brilliant communicator. He was very effective in his communication skills. And as you know, do you remember the time back when the Cold War was happening? Who remembers that? There was a lot of fear around, you know, these political areas, and Reagan went to go meet with Gorbachev. And he talks about this moment where he walked in with his secret services, and he's walking in, and as he walks into this room, Gorbachev is sitting there with all of his secret services. Reagan walks in, and the moment he walked in, Gorbachev stood up and he started screaming at him. And he goes, "You Americans think you rule the world. You can't come in here and tell us what to do. You do that." And he was pointing at him to the point where Reagan said that the birthmark on his head was actually pulsing. That's what he said. Now, what do you think is natural human behavior when someone feels like they're being attacked? Tell me in the chats. Good to see you, Scott. What is most usual human behavior? Fight or flight, right? Now, what do you think would have happened if Reagan would have reacted to that intensity and would have fought back? It might have been the beginning of the end with regards to that dynamic, and who knows the ripple effect of that. But in that moment, here's what Reagan did. And it was a brilliant moment in communication. He actually started by doing a respectful pattern interrupt. Pattern interrupt is very powerful as a technique when emotions or intensity gets high. Because here's one important key, is if you are experiencing negative emotion, it's important for you to realign your own state before you open your mouth and communicate. So in other words, before you communicate this way, you want to communicate this way. Like, I'm going to communicate with my higher self. Who knows what I'm talking about when emotions get high? That's the perfect time to go take a walk. That's a perfect time to excuse yourself to a moment and go to the bathroom and shake it out and realign yourself and go, okay, what is my ultimate outcome? What is my evidence procedure? What is it that I'm intending to have happen here? And realign your physiology, your focus, your mindset for the greatest result. The distinction is, do not ever communicate if negative emotions are high. That's a key distinction. Realign yourself first before you open your mouth to communicate. How many of you have ever communicated and then it created destruction and you had to unwind what just happened? So a great thing to do is interrupt the pattern playfully and respectfully. So here's what Reagan did. Gorbachev's like, you Americans think you rule the world. You can't tell us what to do. Da, 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 da. And Reagan just paused for a moment and he turned and he looked over his shoulder and he smiled. And then he waved. And he goes, can we start over? My name is Ronnie. And in that moment, it was like a total pattern interrupt. And everyone, do this with me for a moment. Place your hand on your heart. This is a very powerful, anytime you want to connect with someone and communicate with them deeply, you can place your hand on your heart. Okay? Placing your hand on your heart is nonverbal communication. That's like, hey, listen, I'm intending to connect. I'm intending to understand. And you're placing the hand on the heart, you're showing a level of sincerity that's nonverbal. And you do it subtly. You don't do it like you're doing the Pledge of Allegiance, okay? It's not like I pledge allegiance to the flag. It's not like that. It's just more subtle. So just go like this. Just smile, place your hand on your heart, lean in, and ask a question. Okay? So everybody, play with this with me one moment. Smile, hand on the heart, lean in, and go, how so? How so? How do you mean? Share with me more. Okay, that's very powerful. Okay, just by asking how so, how do you mean? Tell me more. Hand on the heart. So here's what happened in that moment. Reagan leans over and he smiles. He goes, can we start over? My name is Ronnie. And in that moment, Gorbachev goes, It was like a pattern interrupt. And then he looks at me, he says, he placed his hand on his heart. He's like, listen, Gorby, let's just go for a walk, just you and me. He called him Gorby. That's like real rapport right there. And he says, let's just go for a walk. Listen to the brilliance of the subtleties in communication here. Subtleties. The moment that Gorbachev stands up and they start walking outside, now what is he doing? He's shifting his physiology. Motion creates emotion. Now they're walking side by side. Is there a difference if I'm walking side by side with you outside versus if I'm launching across a table with you? It's very different. So now they're walking side by side, going out into the freezing cold, and they're not taking their secret services. So they don't have anybody to impress, try to look good and not look bad. And he walked out side by side, and Reagan said that was the beginning of the end of the Cold War. So let's break that down. Pattern interrupt, playful, respectful, hand on the heart, leaning in. Hey, let's just go for a walk. What is he doing? He's not talking about the issues. He's going first to rapport. If you get resistance from someone in communication, stop trying to get your agenda or your point across. If you're gaining resistance, it is not time to get your point across. It's time to reestablish rapport. And one of the best ways to establish rapport is to go for a walk. If you're not in person, you could still go for a walk on a call. Let's go for a walk together. And then from that place of reestablishing rapport, once the rapport is reestablished and you ask questions, here's some questions. What's most important to you? What would you like to have happen? How will you know when it happens? Share with me about your vision. Share with me more. The first step to or the foundational step is from sensory acuity and rapport, you now want to gather information. You want to gather information before you start talking about your product, your service, your offering. You want to gather information. What's most important to you? What's your vision? What have you done in the past? What's worked? What hasn't worked? How will you know when your ultimate outcome is achieved? Because from gathering information, now you're informed as to the most effective way to approach the next level of the conversation. How is that? Give me some feedback in the chats. How is that resonating for you, what I've just shared? Phil, good to see you, Nancy. That's a great question. Tina's like, how would you do that in a meeting with multiple people? Okay, so now we're going into advanced distinctions. If you've got advanced distinctions like that, I'd love to go into those also in the VIP room. How many of you, it's important to not only communicate with one person, you're communicating with the group. And it's important for you to be effective in communicating with the group. Well, every group that you communicate with has what in NLP is called the rapport leader. The rapport leader is the one who is unconsciously influencing the rest of the room. The room, without even realizing it, is looking towards the rapport leaders to see how they respond. So if you're presenting to a group, it is imperative that you can immediately recognize who are the rapport leaders, because they're going to set the tone for how everyone else is going to be receiving that communication. Breakthrough. There you go, Liz. Yes. So I actually teach that in our advanced NLP certification course. And I even teach it in a presentation course that I'm leading, that one I'm doing next year, on how you can present to groups. And it requires having the sensory acuity to recognize the rapport leader in the room. Every world-class presenter understands how to do that. Okay. How would you establish rapport? Yeah, you can ask me questions like this and I'll be happy to answer. I'm going to answer a lot of them in the VIP room. How do you establish rapport on a cold call? Is that valuable? You're calling someone. How do you establish rapport? Well, the first thing is sensory acuity. Let's say that you're calling someone on a cold call and you get their voicemail. And on the voicemail, it says, "Hi, this is Bob. Leave a message." Click. Are you going to leave a different message for Bob than you would leave for Susie? If you call Susie and Susie says, "Hi, this is Susie. I can't get to the phone right now, but your message is very important to me. Please leave me a detailed message and the best time to call you back, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks, and have a great day." Who's made phone calls to these two different voicemails? Okay. It is imperative that you listen, sensory acuity, and that you can mirror and match. Here's a foundational technique for rapport. You mirror and match. And then once you have rapport, you pace and lead. That's what it's called. The technique in NLP is called mirroring and matching, pacing and leading. So you would leave two very different voicemails for those people. So, "Hi, Bob." Bob's going to get a short, succinct, to the point voicemail. "Hi, Bob. I've got, hi, Bob, you were referred to me by so-and-so. I've got something that is in alignment with blank, whatever that may be. Please call me back. I've got something I'd love to go over with you real quick for just a minute." Click. I'm going to leave a voicemail that lets him know that I'm going to be quick in just a minute. Everybody focus with me. Okay. Awesome. I'm going to leave a different message for Susie. Okay. And I'm going to invite everyone to bring all of your attention. I'm seeing a couple people. Just make sure all of your attention and focus is right here. Yes. Awesome. So for Susie, I'm going to leave a more detailed message. "Hi, Susie, this is Carol. I received your name and number from so-and-so," and then you leave a more detailed message. Got that? So you're mirroring and matching. Okay. So another key important distinction here is, I'm going to give you one other very important teaching for communication mastery. And how many of you can see that even though we're giving so much insight in these distinctions, that we can go deeper into each of these teachings? Okay. We could spend 2 hours just on rapport strategies, and then role playing with rapport and things of this nature. So here's one foundational key to communication mastery that I'm committed to make sure everyone integrates right now, is framing. That in any given moment, our communication is constantly setting frames. Time frames, boundaries, possibility frames, impossibility frames, opportunity frames, scarcity frames. Our language has frames. So you want to be very mindful of how you're framing your communication and making sure that the presuppositions in your communication are leading you to where you're committed to go. So I'll give you an example of framing and reframing. Years ago, I saw this interview and I thought, what an amazing example of reframing. It was Barbara Walters interviewing Celine Dion. And Barbara is such a brilliant communicator, yes? Brilliant interviewer. And she's like leaning in and she's totally in rapport. And she's able to ask questions that might break rapport, but she's like a master of rapport. And she looks at Celine and she leans in and she goes, well, how does it feel to have the whole world know that your husband has this gambling problem? That was the frame, gambling problem. Celine didn't miss a beat and she reframed it. She goes, problem? What are you talking about? It's not a problem. It's a godsend. If he wouldn't have been willing to gamble on me in the early stages of my career, I wouldn't even be talking to you right now. As a matter of fact, the biggest gamble he ever made was mortgaging his house to fund my first album. It's not a problem. It's a godsend. So that's called a reframe. And the most brilliant communicators are experts at framing, reframing, pre-framing, okay? They understand how to frame. Now, other people who might not be aware of the importance of framing might become upset when someone says something like that, right? And they react. If someone is reacting, that's a red flag that communication is not happening at a level of mastery. But what did Celine do? She reframed it. She took a context that was not good, like gambling in this context is not good, and she reframed it to an empowering context. He gambled on me, and that's why I'm here talking to you today. It is the ultimate way to overcome objections. How many of you get objections in your business? Everybody, right? Would it be valuable to master the art of reframing objections in a calm, clear, centered way, where you could take something that was a problem in this context and just reframe it? I'll give you another example of a reframe. I talked about Reagan a moment ago, and I'm reminded of another Ronald Reagan story when he was having a debate. And it's interesting because now we just had the debates here in the United States, and there's a big issue in the United States about age, right? Age in the election. But there was a big issue when Reagan was running too about age in the election. And here's what the interviewer asks him. He says, hey, he says, in the debate, or the person running the debate says, there's an issue about age in this election. What do you think about this age issue? And here's what Reagan said, and he didn't miss a beat. He said, I will not use my opponent's youth and inexperience as a platform. So instead of justifying why age wasn't a problem, which puts him in an inferior position. Instead, he reframed it to become his benefit. Who's recognizing the power of a reframe right there? I'm going to share with you, it takes practice. It takes practice. Do you want one other reframe or one other framing technique? Yes? Oh, you're having more breakthroughs. I love it. I need to be better at reframes. Breakthrough. Okay. And in the VIP, we'll give you some coaching on this so you could really see how to apply this for yourself. Okay. Years ago, I was having a conversation with Tony Robbins, and we were talking about frames. And in the context of business, let's say in the context of a negotiation, how important is it? And we're going to go even deeper into negotiation in the VIP room today. So those of you that are really fired up about negotiation, I'm about to give you a technique here, and I'm going to go deeper into that in a moment. Is anytime you're communicating with someone, let me see where my frame go. Anytime you're communicating with someone, you're in one of these three frames. You're either in a superior frame, superior, or you are in an equal frame, or you are in an inferior frame. Anytime you communicate, let's say in the context of a negotiation, to make this context specific, you're in one of these three frames. Now, to be effective in communication, which of these frames do you think is most effective? Superior is when you give someone a direct command. Like, go ahead and do this right now. That's superior. Go ahead and do this right now. Equal is the we conversation. This is where we together, us, are going to work together to achieve this outcome. That's we. Inferior is when you turn the power over to whoever you're communicating with. Hey, ultimately, it's up to you. You're the boss. You're making the decision. In the context of a negotiation, which is the most effective frame to be in? Superior, equal, or inferior? Tell me in the chats, which one? Superior, equal, or inferior? A lot of people saying equal. Okay. I can see some of you have been in class with me before. Inferior initially, okay, equal, vacillates, okay. The answer is all three. It's really all three. If you come in superior and you stay there, you're going to break rapport. You might get compliance, but how many of you have ever had someone say yes and then later they get like buyer's remorse? They call you back, they're like, oh, I changed my mind type of thing. If someone has buyer's remorse, it's often that you were in superior and they were in inferior when they made the decision. So they weren't empowered. In equal, if you stay in equal, these are people that want to take you to lunch. They want to pick your brain. It could take forever to get a result accomplished. And in inferior, they can walk all over you. It's not the highest choice. So the best example is fluctuating through all three rapidly. I'll give you an example. For years, I customized training programs, communication mastery, and other areas for the real estate industry. And how many of you, anybody here in real estate as an example? Okay. I'll give you a real estate metaphor. You can apply it to any area, any business you're in. So let's say you've got somebody who's coming in and they want to buy this magnificent home. And by the way, it's important to listen to people's keywords. When someone says magnificent home, that word magnificent means something to them. You don't want to go back and say, I've got a fabulous house. Let me show that to you. Because fabulous and magnificent are two completely different things. Someone says magnificent, you want to know, how will you know it's magnificent? What will you see? What will you hear? What will you feel that lets you know it's magnificent? So you want to elicit their evidence procedure for magnificent. You with me on that? Okay. Let's just say somebody says this magnificent home. And now you've found a property. They've said magnificent. You know their evidence procedure. Evidence procedure means what they will see, hear, and feel that lets them know it's magnificent. It's their checklist for magnificent so that they can take action on it. So let's say you found a property that meets that evidence procedure for magnificent. Now you want to ask the closing question. How valuable is it for you to understand how to frame a closing question or a closing statement that inspires action? Super valuable, hands to the heavens, or we could skip that one. Okay, just double checking, being playful with you. Kelly's raising his hands. Okay, so let's say you go like this. So we've talked about all the things that are most important to you in buying a house. And now we found this house that meets your criteria, which means it's time to sign the deal right now before someone else does. I mean, ultimately, it's up to you. I'm here to serve and to support you. And we both know that this is precisely in alignment with what you're looking for. So take action right now. Just sign right here. Let's do this. How was that? Give me some feedback, everyone. Put some feedback in the chats. Okay. So what you're doing is you're fluctuating through all three. You're starting with a we. You're giving a direct command to take action. Ultimately, it's up to you, and let's do this together. This is an example of the power of framing. And understanding how to frame your communication is a foundational key to your success, and pre-framing also in advance. I remember the very first time I bought a Porsche. I'd been driving Mercedes for a long time because I did customize all this training program for Mercedes. And when I went into the Porsche dealership in Newport Beach, the guy was a master of communication. I bought the car that day. By the way, do you know what the industry statistic is in the automotive industry? That 9 out of 10 people that walk into a dealership are ready, willing, and able to buy a car. That's where they're standing in a lot. And 8 out of 10 times they walk out the door, down the street, and do business with somebody else. Isn't that interesting? So the best individuals that can inspire action are those who understand sensory acuity. They understand rapport. They understand the power of questions. They understand the power of framing, pre-framing, reframing. These are foundational keys. So I walk into this dealership, driving my Mercedes, looking at Porsches, first time. And I want to just test drive it because my strategy is if I see it and I like it and it feels good, I'll want to buy it. But as I'm looking at this car and I say to the salesman, I want to test drive it, here's what he said to me. He says, before I give you the keys, you need to know that this car is nothing like your Mercedes. He says, this, and he smiles, is a sports car. He says, I'm going to take you down in these alleys in the back of Newport Beach. And he says, and you're going to feel how different. Look what he's doing. He's setting a frame for me. He says, you're going to feel how different this car is in your Mercedes. He says, we're going to go down. You're going to feel how the car hugs the road. You're going to feel every nook and cranny. You're going to be one with the road because this is a real sports car. So all of a sudden, he set the frame. And I'm driving this down the back alleys of Newport Beach. And all of a sudden, it's like a bumpy ride. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I'm one with the road. Yeah, this is a sports car. I can feel every nook and cranny. Now, if he had not pre-framed me, I would have probably thought this is a bumpy ride, a lot bumpier and not as smooth as my other car. But what he did was he took the problem and framed it as the possibility and showed me how to look through that pre-frame. So I was looking through a particular lens that he guided me through with his frames. Who's got what I'm talking about right now? Give me some feedback in the chats. Who's got what I'm talking about? He pre-framed me. So I came in, he had sensory acuity, he had rapport, he asked questions. What do you love most about your Mercedes? If you could change one thing, what would it be? He asked these questions and then he framed his communication and I bought the car. So these are distinctions. Give me some feedback in the chats. And here's the deal. This takes practice. Whipping out these frames, like I just I was hired to do a keynote presentation for a real estate firm. And one of the objections that they were getting, because I don't know if you realize there's a lot of change in the United States going on right now in the real estate industry. There's a lot of change. And one of the agents, and by the way, we've got mega agents who are graduates of my communication and evolved NLP courses. And when I say mega agents, I'm talking like individuals that have been known to do about a transaction a day, which is like, you know, some of the top real estate agents in the world. And one of the things that we talked about with framing is individuals were coming in saying, well, Joe down the street is lowering his commission. Will you lower your commission? Because that's what they're doing. How many of you have ever found yourself trying to justify why something is, why it's a good deal and not, you know, why someone should do business with you, as one example, or to justify your pricing or justify your offer? If you're justifying, you're not in a place of power. You do not want to justify, you want to reframe. And this takes skill and practice. It's not just something you learn in 5 minutes, okay? So let's say the person says, well, Joe down the street is going to lower his commission. You could go, well, if Joe down the street is that quick to lower his commission, then it would make sense that he would be that quick to lower the price of your home. Wouldn't it make more sense to find a way to get the best value for your home so you get the greatest return on your investment rather than just trying to, you know, come up with a way to get 1 or 2 less points on a deal? Wouldn't it make more sense to look at the bigger picture? So these are some insights. Who'd love to spend more time on framing? Like, let me apply it to you. Like, hey, let's role play, right? Let's role play. Here's the challenge I'm navigating. And then let's see how we could reframe, pre-frame, shift the frame. We're going to have some time for that role playing in the VIP room. So if you're not in the VIP room, yes, make sure to get in there because we're going to role play. We're going to do hands-on coaching. We're going to do Q&A and things of that nature. And to be mindful of our time, because I've got exciting prizes that we're going to do as well. Plus, we've got exciting things coming up that I'd like to invest some time and share with you. I want to leave you with this one final point, final teaching, and then I'm going to share with you about the exciting things that we have coming up. We've got amazing things happening in like this month and happening over the next few months in our community that we'd love to include you in. Is here's one final teaching, is how important in terms of communication mastery. And I just wrote about this in the newsletter. Who got our newsletter? Went out yesterday. Read the newsletter? You guys getting that newsletter? It's going out. I talked about the power of I am. I am. Whatever you speak after the words I am, you will attract, you will create, and you will become. My friends, be very aware of what you speak after the words I am, because whatever you speak will come find you. If someone says, oh my gosh, I'm so tired, you know, I'm so old, I'm so fat, I'm so, you know, I'm having such a hard time with this, that will come find you. I am is an invocation. When you speak after I am, you're literally calling in. What if you can align your I am, your statements of I am, to be in alignment with the highest within you? I am inspired. I am ready. I am focused. I am clear. I am committed. I am making this happen. There's always a way when I am committed. There is immense power in I am. And here's the final piece I will share with you about I am. The words that we choose, the statements that we make, the questions that we ask are at the deepest level influenced by our beliefs, our values, and our identity. If I gave you a recorder right now and you walked around with it for a week and it recorded everything you said, or better yet, we can put it in your brain and it recorded every thought you had. And at the end of the week, you and I sit down, a space of zero judgment, pure unconditional love, and we press play. What is revealed? Do you catch yourself championing your vision, being your biggest supporter, or do you catch yourself at times talking about what isn't happening? Bringing up doubts, fears, criticizing others, judging yourself. What if you knew, my friends, that you create as you speak? That your word has that much power. That when you speak into existence, and every cell in your body aligns with what you declare. That's why it's not just about mastering communication. It's about going deeper into the source of what is the source that's fueling my communication. The source that's fueling your communication is beliefs, values, identity. So what if there was a way to align your beliefs, your identity, your values, your communication with the highest within you, the highest light that is you? In our community, we call that having supreme influence. And supreme, as I define it, is the empowered, authentic you. And influence is inward fluency. This is when your thoughts, your words, your actions, your beliefs, your values, your sense of self are bam in alignment. And when you're living a life that's in alignment, you have power, inner power, not power over, inner power, power to create your life by design. So how many of you would love to explore how to align your beliefs, your values, your identity, your sense of self with the highest within you? That is an event that we have happening. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you about 2 exciting things we've got coming up. So let me give you these dates and put it in your notes. And then I'm going to go over, let me pull this up here. I'm going to go over these experiences, and we're going to continue in the VIP room. So if you could, I saw some people asking for the link to the VIP room. If the team can drop the VIP link in there, so those who are not yet in the VIP can continue the empowerment party into the VIP room. It's only $97. You get the replays, you get all kinds of amazing stuff. So you definitely want to join us for the VIP. And here's the special offers that we have today that we've put together exclusive for you. We have 2 events that are coming up. The first is our Evolved NLP certification course. And certification is important if that's, a lot of people come not necessarily for the certification, they come for their own journey of transformation, growth, empowerment. It's a course that we have called it's my signature course. It's our foundational course. It's called Supreme Influence in Action. Supreme Influence in Action. And the dates are July 12th, 13th, and 14th. It's coming up. It's right around the corner. It's like next week. And let me share with you. How many of you are graduates? Let me take a look around the room. How many of you are graduates of SIA? You've received so much value, and you're like, you're back for more. Awesome. It's so good to see you guys. Okay. So SIA is a course that will guide you to transform the way you think, speak, and live. It is a total immersion transformational experience. And we're together for 3 full days from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives us time to go deep into these teachings, go in a breakout rooms, have specific hands-on coaching so it integrates. It's not just like you're hearing it, it integrates at a cellular level. Okay. So let me share my slides here with you. The team's going to drop the link in a moment, not just yet. We've got something very special that we've put together for you. So SIA is a 3-day communication mastery and evolved NLP training course. Here's what you're going to receive. You're going to receive the full course. It's mindset and communication mastery. You're going to get the entire course. You're also going to get a digital pre-study, which is the Supreme Influence pre-study. You get a confidential questionnaire that comes directly to me, where you could share with me, what's the biggest challenges you're having? You know, where are areas where you felt blocked? People describe breakthroughs just from the questionnaire. I'm going to guide you step by step, hands-on coaching. You're going to get a manual with scripts for success every process we guide, let's say I'm going to guide a process on day 3 of how to completely transform any limiting belief on the spot. I'm going to guide you through it. You're going to experience the breakthrough, and then I'm going to give you a script so you understand how to practice this for yourself moving forward. And how many of you are here, not just because you're here for your own transformation, you're also here because you want to support and empower others, coaching others, mentoring others. A big part of what you will receive from this will take your coaching practice to the next level of, to a next advanced level of mastery. After the course completion, you're going to get a 30-day action guide that's going to guide you to integrate everything that happened during this course at a cellular level. And it's real simple. It's like a 10-minute practice in the morning, 10-minute practice in the evening, and it supports all of the integration happening. You also have an opportunity to become certified if that's important to you. If you're working with others, you definitely want to become certified. And you're going to receive a month free in our membership program. The investment for all of this is close to $4,000. We've got very special offers that we're doing here. Special because you're here at Communication Mastery. The investment, and then I'll take any questions. The investment is only $997. And we've got a fast action bonus, and the team will drop the link in just a moment. They'll go ahead and drop it. Actually, go ahead and drop it right now. We can. When you take action by midnight tonight, it's only $997. Take action by midnight tonight, and you will receive a guest ticket to bring a brand new guest who is new to our community. So it's got to be somebody who's never been to any of our courses, because it's about expanding the reach of the immense value that we have. You get to bring a brand new person with you to this course. And we also have revisit specials that are epic for our graduates. So before we go into the next, because I've only got 2 amazing special offers for you, are there any questions about SIA? Because I'd like to make sure that if anyone has a question, you could put your hand emoji up, and I'd love to answer any questions specifically about the course. If you've got any questions to support you in coaching in the context of Communication Mastery, we're going to do those in the VIP room. Are there any questions? Okay. How many of you are graduates of SIA? Let me take a look one more time. Okay, let me see. Awesome. If you're a graduate of SIA and you want to share with anyone in the chats about your experience, that would be awesome. Obviously, they're here because they've gotten so much value before that they're back for more. Okay. Would anybody like to share about their SIA experience? I want to be mindful of our time. Let me take a look. Anybody want to share? Jen's phone. Okay. We'll have more time for sharing in the VIP room. People describe their life before SIA and after SIA. It's that significant. When you come back from SIA, you will notice that you're communicating differently without even trying. You're naturally communicating in a more empowered way. You're naturally communicating with greater confidence. That's one of the things SIA automatically gives you: greater confidence, greater precision in your communication, greater poise. The next course that we have, and they go together, they are quite complementary, is Neogenesis. And Neogenesis, the word neo in Greek stands for new, and Genesis stands for beginning. Neogenesis is a 4-day journey to create a new beginning in any area of your life. How many of you have something from the past that shows up in the present that doesn't serve you? Takes you out of your game, takes you out of your center, takes you out of your power. If you've got something from the past that shows up in the present that clouds your vision and blocks you from moving forward powerfully, come to Neogenesis. Neogenesis guides you to the root, the very root of whatever's blocked you, and it releases the obstruction at the root. And when I say the root, I'm talking about, let me see if I got a thing here. I'm talking about at the subconscious level. A lot of times consciously we want something. want to make more money, have more love, be physically fit, be happier. But subconsciously, there's programs that dictate otherwise. How many of y'all know we've been programmed? Who knows that? Psychologists agree by the time a child is 8 years old, they've had over 25,000 hours of linguistic programming alone. Words have been downloaded into our mind, influencing our mind with ideas about money, about success, about who we are, about our self-worth, about what is or is impossible in our lives. And these ideas, who knows what I'm talking about? These ideas run in the mind like a muffled tape loop, and they fuel behavior and drive your life until you wake up. So Neo takes you to the root of these subconscious beliefs that don't serve you, and it removes the obstruction at the root. And what if I shared with you, my dear friends, that the root of whatever's blocked you is before the age of 7, likely before the age of 6. Something that's happened that's created beliefs. Like if I was to say money is the root of all, fill in the blank. Any way you'd like, fill in the blank. See, Aaron's like evil because we've been conditioned. Now, logically, we know that's not true. Logically, we're like, that's not even the quote. But if something links money to evil as just one example of a belief, do you think that would impact your ability to create and attract prosperity? Yes or no? So Neo guides you to release obstructions at the root, and the end result is that your vision, the vision of your highest self, the values of your most empowered identity, the identity of who you are at your best, you living at your absolute best, that's what emerges at Neo as a natural action. So let me share with you a little bit about where it is. The cool thing about Neo is we have a virtual option and we have an in-person option. In Cancun, we are all going on an amazing trip. Here's the details. Let me share it with you. And this may be the last time we do it in person. So you definitely want to come in person because we may not do it in person anymore. We may continue doing these virtually. So Neo is November 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th. It is a 4-day total immersion experience. I'm going to give you 2 options in a moment. I'm going to give you the option of coming in person with us, so you be on a 5-star resort on the beautiful beaches of Cancun, or I'm going to give you the option of doing it virtual. So here's what you're going to receive. For those of you that come in person, it's an all-inclusive experience. 4 days, you get your confidential questionnaire, you get your Neogenesis manual, you get the full teaching. We even go on amazing adventures into the underground caves for a powerful integration adventure. You get double occupancy accommodations, and you get your meals. And the investment for coming in person, double occupancy, 5 nights, 6 days is over $6,500. Normally, the investment that you would do today is only $3,997. Okay. And when you take action by midnight tonight, a fast action bonus is you can bring a new guest with you who is new to the community. It is our way of saying thank you, to expand the reach of everything that we have available here. The only criteria is that they are new to the community. They're coming as your guest, and the only thing they pay for is their meals and accommodations. So we give them the tuition as a fast action bonus for you taking action today, and they just cover their meals and accommodations. You can come to Neo virtually. There's a virtual option here as well. You can click on that virtual option, and you'll see that the virtual option is only $24.97 for you to experience Neogenesis. Okay. Are there any questions about Neo? Because in a moment, we're going to do some prizes. Any questions about Neo? Awesome. Okay, let's see. Lisa, would you like to share about your Neogenesis experience just briefly? And then we're going to do prizes. Where was your life at before you came to NEO? And then you came to NEO, and then what happened? And then what shifted after you graduated? What changed? Like specific results. So good to see you.
Hi. So before NEO, I was kind of lost, actually would be a good word, and I didn't even know it. I had just moved back from Tennessee, had a devastating breakup, and I didn't realize that I was as depressed as I was. I didn't even know. And then I came to NEO, and I decided to trust the process. And I got home from NEO, and everybody in my life said, "What happened to you?" They said, "Things have changed and I don't even know what you did." And if anybody's ever tried to explain anything that you do with NIURKA, you don't know how. That's, it is what it is. And I just said I went on an experience and it changed my life. And since NEO, I have written a book. I have determined my entire pathway for my future. I am actually now a vice assistant principal in education, and I have put my life focus on changing the lives of teens and their parents.
I love that. I mean, it was such a joy. Lisa discovered her purpose as we went through these courses, and she discovered her purpose, and she declared her direction, and she wrote a book in alignment with it. And so many amazing things have been happening. And I wish we had more time to share, because in the presence of people's stories of breakthroughs, of success, we see ourselves in these reflections, and it creates amazing breakthroughs. So in a moment, I'm going to do some prizes. How many of you would love, let me take a look, is the first prize I'm going to do. Thank you, Lisa. Give Lisa some love. First prize I'm going to do. How many of you would love to come to Cancun with us, and you would love to win a prize that would support you even more in coming and joining us in Cancun? So we're going to do a few gift certificates and some prizes. So Bobby, how many prizes do we have? How many are we doing? Is it like 3, I think?
Yes, it's 3 prizes, 3 lucky.
So 3 lucky prizes. So the first prize I'm going to give to someone who's inspired to join us. I saw some hands being raised. Somebody's going to win $1,000. $1,000 that you could apply towards Neogenesis specifically. How about that? Who'd love that? Awesome. So I'm going to say the winner is Linda. She's waving at me. Give Linda some love. Linda wins a prize. And now the next prize is $500. And this one you could apply towards Sia or Neo, whichever you prefer. We are also going to Bali, by the way. I'm not going to go into the details on Bali because I want to be mindful of our time here, but I am going to talk about Bali in the VIP room. I'm taking a group to Bali, Indonesia on an epic sacred adventure of a lifetime. It's happening in August. Starts August 5th of this year. We'll talk more about that in the VIP room. But right now, $500. Who's feeling lucky? Who's inspired to come join us? Let's take a look. Georgetta, give her $500, Bobby, right over there. And then Brenda, Rainer. How about that? So Brenda, there you go. Thousands in prizes. Woo!
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Okay, everyone, give me some feedback. How is today's session? If you were to share in 2 words. You are so welcome, beautiful.
I'm coming.
In the chats how today's experience has been. We've really only, Scott, it's so good to see you. We've really only scratched the surface. There's a lot more for us to dive deep into. And I'm encouraging you to take the next step, whatever that is for you, whether it's Sia, whether it's Neo, take the next step. And I want you to know this final note. There is so much that we can accomplish together when we're in a room for total immersion rather than just 2 hours. I really want you to understand that. Like 2 hours, there's only so much we can accomplish in that period of time. But when we've got 3 full days, and then we're able to go deep, and then we're able to go into breakout rooms, and we're able to debrief hands-on with coaching and training, it takes everything to a whole other level. So you're here for a reason, because you know that the journey of mastery is infinite. Our capacity is infinite. Our potential is infinite. I can't even begin to tell you the hundreds of thousands of hours and dollars invested on this journey of evolution. And it's worth it, because what we create in our lives is reflecting back to us our own standards. And this event, these experiences are going to help you raise your standards with greater skills, mindset, communication skills to open new doors of opportunity that will make all the difference in your life. So the team is going to drop the links. Make sure you get the links. They're there. And I am excited to see you and be with you there. So we're going to take a 10-minute break. And in 10 minutes, we're going to be in the VIP room. So they'll drop the VIP link. Excited to see you. It's only $97. Make sure to join us for the VIP. We're going to go for 2 hours of hands-on coaching and training of everything that happened here. And it's going to be very interactive. I love you all. Connect with me on social media. It is always a joy. It is always my deepest joy, my deepest honor to be here with each and every one of you. Thank you for showing up and bringing your energy, your presence, your love, your light. Each one of you has a gift that no one on earth has. And I'm devoted and committed to support you in every way that I've invested a lifetime to support you in realizing the heights that I know you're destined for. I love you so much. Infinite love and blessings. And I will see you in the VIP room. Big hugs, 10 minutes.